The sound of the slap still rings in my ears one moment. I was handing my sister a wedding veil, the next I was standing, frozen in a crowded boutique with my cheek burning red. Everyone stared, some shocked, some pretending not to notice as she pointed at the door and hissed, "Leave, you don't belong here." Humiliation rushed through me like fire, but beneath it was something colder, stronger, because what she didn't know, what no one in that boutique knew, was that her entire dream, wedding, the dress, the venue, the flowers, wasn't being paid for by her, it was being paid for by me. And in that single moment, as I turned and walked out, I decided her fairy tale was about to end. My name is Amanda Carter, and I'm 27 years old. I never thought a day that was supposed to be joyful would turn into the moment my sister completely humiliated me. It all happened during her wedding. Shopping, we were in this fancy boutique downtown, the kind of place with shiny floors, soft music, and gowns that cost more than most people's cars. My sister Melissa was standing on the platform in front of the mirror, twirling in a white dress covered with crystals. Everyone, our mom, the sales lady, even a few cousins, was clapping and telling her how beautiful she looked. Me, I was sitting quietly in a corner holding her purse, carrying her phone and waiting for her to bark another order at me. That's how she always treated me, like her personal assistant, not her sister. When the sales lady asked her if she wanted to try another gown, Melissa snapped her fingers at me. "Go get the veil from the rack and hurry up, you're..." So slow I swallowed my pride and did what she asked. But when I came back and handed her the veil, she turned around, slapped me across the face, and said, loud enough for everyone to hear, "Just leave. You're ruining my moment." The sting on my cheek wasn't as painful as the sting in my chest. Everyone froze. A couple of people gasped. I felt my face burning with embarrassment, but I held back my tears. She didn't just slap me, she threw me out like I didn't belong. What Melissa didn't know was that the card she was planning to use for all her wedding shopping, the one she was about to pull out for that crystal-covered gown, was mine for months. She'd been spending freely, thinking our parents were covering the bills. But it was actually me. I was the one paying for the venue, the flowers, even the engagement dinner. And right then, as I walked out of the boutique, I made a decision that would change everything. As soon as I stepped outside the boutique, I pulled out my phone. My hands were still shaking from the slap, but my mind was crystal clear. I opened the banking app, went straight to my account, and canceled the card. Just like that, every penny she thought was hers was gone. I stood on the sidewalk for a moment, breathing in the cool air inside. I could still hear laughter like nothing had happened. My sister, no idea the ground beneath her was about to collapse. A few minutes later, my phone buzzed with a notification: transaction declined, $20,350 attempted. At Bridal Luxe, I smirked. That had to be the gown. I leaned against the glass window and peeked inside. Melissa was at the counter with her shiny dress still draped over her arms, waving the card at the sales lady. "It must be a mistake," I heard her say, her voice sharp. "Run it again. I know there's plenty of money on this card." The sales lady tried again. Another decline. Melissa's face turned red and she started snapping at everyone. Mom stepped in, whispering something about calling the bank, but the staff weren't patient. They'd seen brides like her before, arrogant, loud, and entitled. "Miss," the manager finally said, his arms crossed, "if you cannot make the payment, we'll need the dress back. We have other clients waiting." Melissa's jaw dropped. She looked like a queen who had just been stripped of her crown in public. She turned to Mom, demanding she fix it. Mom glanced toward the door, probably wondering where I went, but I was already walking away down the street. For the first time in years, I felt a little free. My sister had slapped me, humiliated me, and treated me like trash, but now she was about to face the reality that her entire fairy tale was built on my dime, and this was only the beginning. I hadn't even reached home when my phone started buzzing nonstop. First it was Mom, then Dad, then Melissa herself. I ignored the first 3 calls, but when Mom called again for the 4th time, I finally picked up. Her voice came through, sharp and angry. "Amanda, what have you done? You know your sister's dress was declined." She almost fainted in the store. The entire boutique staff was staring at us. I kept my tone calm. "That's not my problem, Mom. What do You mean it's not your problem, you? Embarrassed us in front of everyone. You better call the bank, right? Now and fix it. I laughed. Bitterly, there's nothing to fix that. Was my card. I've been paying for everything. Her dress, her engagement, dinner, even the deposit for the venue, every single thing. She's bragging about it's. On my dime, there was silence on the other end. For a second, I thought the call had dropped, then Mom's voice came back trembling. With rage, you selfish girl, how dare you cancel the card now, right? Before the wedding, selfish, I snapped. I've been funding a wedding that isn't even mine. I've been draining my savings while Melissa treats me like her maid. Do you even realize what I've sacrificed? Melissa suddenly grabbed the phone from Mom. Her voice was screeching. You're jealous. That's what this is. You've always been jealous of me. You think ruining my wedding will make you happy. Guess what? It won't. Everyone will still choose me over you. I didn't even bother arguing. I just said, from now on, Melissa, you fund your own wedding. Consider this. We're trembling, but it wasn't fear anymore. It was relief. I'd finally stood up for myself, but deep down I knew this was only the start. Because without my money, my sister's perfect wedding was about to fall apart. Piece by piece. The next morning, my phone buzzed again, this time with a message from the wedding venue. Payment overdue. Your reservation will be canceled within 48 hours if balance is not received. I almost laughed out loud. They had no idea that I wasn't paying another cent. I deleted the message knowing it would soon land in Melissa's inbox instead. By noon, the call started again. Melissa's voice was shrill, almost panicked. Amanda, the venue says the check bounced. What did you do? I spoke slowly, almost enjoying the calmness in my voice compared to her. Chaos. I didn't do anything. I just stopped paying. That's all. She screeched into the phone. You can't do this. The wedding is in 2 weeks. The caterer, the flowers, the photographer, they're all expecting money. That's your problem. Now, not mine, I said, and hung up. Later that evening, word began spreading through the family group chat. Relatives who had already booked flights were asking if the wedding was still happening. A few even mentioned hearing from the caterer that their contract had been canceled, apparently. Melissa's check to them had bounced too by the 3rd day. Her fiance's family got involved. I heard through a cousin that they had a heated discussion at his house. They had believed Melissa's parents were funding everything. Now they discovered not a single bill was paid by them. It was all me. The whispers began. If Amanda was the one paying, what does that say about Melissa? That evening, I got a text from her fiancé himself. Amanda, is it true you've been paying for the wedding? Melissa told us her parents were covering everything. I stared at the screen, debating. Then I typed back one word, yes. I didn't need to explain further. The truth was enough to plant doubt in his mind, and I had a feeling that doubt would soon explode into something much bigger. 2 days later, I got a call. I didn't expect. It was from Jacob, Melissa's fiancé. His voice was calm, but I could hear the strain beneath it. Amanda, he said, I need to ask you something, and I want the truth. Did you really pay for all of this? The venue, the catering, the engagement dinner? I didn't hesitate. Yes, Jacob, every bit of it. Melissa never paid a dime. My parents didn't either. It was all me. There was silence for a moment. Then he sighed. She told me her family was handling everything. She said money wasn't an issue. Do you know how humiliating it was to find out in front of my parents that none of the payments were real? I could hear the anger in his voice now. I trusted her, Amanda, but lying about money this big, it makes me wonder what else she's lied about. Before I could answer, Melissa grabbed the phone from him. Her voice was sharp, desperate. Jacob, don't listen to her. She's jealous. She's trying to destroy us. She's always hated me. But Jacob didn't sound convinced anymore. Melissa, enough. I saw the receipts. Amanda isn't lying. You told me your parents were paying, and now I find out it was your sister's savings. How could you think that was okay? I was going to pay her back. Melissa cried. You don't understand. She's making this worse than it is. But Jacob's voice turned cold. What I understand is that we were about to start a marriage built on lies. If you can't be honest about something as important as this, how can I believe anything else? You've told me, Melissa begged, shouted, and cried. But Jacob had already made up his mind. By the end of that call, the engagement was over. I sat there on my bed, phone still in my hand, stunned, not because I was sad, but because it finally hit me. Her entire fairy tale was collapsing, and I hadn't even lifted a finger. except to cancel a card. The truth alone was enough to bring it all down the wedding. Day came faster than anyone expected. Melissa still went through with it. Desperate to hold her fairy tale together, she scrambled, begged, borrowed, and manipulated her way into last-minute arrangements. Nothing matched. Nothing was perfect. The flowers were cheap, the food barely. Edible, the decorations. Looked rushed and messy, but she plastered on that fake princess smile, pretending it was all under control. But I knew the truth. I knew she was crumbling underneath, and I wasn't done yet. I showed up that morning in a sleek black dress, not flashy, just sharp enough to make a statement. Heads turned when I walked. Into the church, Melissa froze. When she saw me, her face paled. Like she had seen a ghost, I leaned close, enough so only she could hear, and whispered, "Nice dress, shame you don't." "Own it," she hissed. "Get out!" "You're not welcome here," but before she could shove me away, the officiant cleared. His throat asking for the rings her fiancé turned to. Melissa waiting, she patted her dress. Her face confused, pale panic spreading. Across her eyes, because she didn't have them, I slowly stepped forward, pulling the velvet box from my purse and all. Eyes turned to me, Melissa lunged, but I snapped the box shut and said loud enough for everyone to hear. "Funny thing about this wedding, it's built on lies, lies, and money that never belonged to her." The crowd gasped. Whispers rippled through the pews. Her fiancé looked lost, stunned, his eyes darting between me and Melissa. I went on this entire wedding, the venue, the gown, the food. All of it was bought and signed under my name. She treated me like trash, like I was nothing but her servant, but the truth is, without me, she wouldn't even be standing here today. The silence was deafening. Melissa shook, her head stammering, "Lies, don't listen to her." But the damage was done. Her fiancé's face hardened, his jaw clenched. He demanded, "Is this true?" "Melissa." She tried to grab his hand, but he pulled away. The room was unraveling like a bad dream. I opened the ring box slowly, revealing it empty, and I smiled. Melissa looked like she might collapse right there, her perfect day shattered before it even began, and I turned, walked away, leaving her standing at the altar, exposed, humiliated, stripped of her crown. And for the first time in my life, I felt powerful. I felt free after I walked out of that church. I didn't look back. I could still hear the gasps, the whispers, the chaos, but I didn't care anymore. For the first time in years, I wasn't carrying their shame or their bills or their endless demands. I was walking away free. In the days that followed, the phone calls started. Again, first my mom, then my dad, then Melissa, each one more desperate than the last. "Amanda, please help us. The vendors are demanding payment. The guests are furious. The community is talking." I let their calls go to voicemail. I owed them nothing anymore. Soon enough, the news spread. Relatives whispered. Neighbors gossiped. Melissa, the bride who lost it. All not because of me, but because of her own greed. Her fiancé Jacob never came back. He returned the ring to her parents and made it clear he wanted nothing to do with her. His family washed their hands of the entire mess. Melissa had to move back into my parents' house, bitter, angry, humiliated, and broke. I heard through cousins. She hardly left her room. She couldn't face the world without her crown, without the title of wife. She had built her entire identity on that wedding, and when it collapsed, she collapsed with it. As for my parents, they finally had to face reality. No more Amanda to pay their mortgage, no more Amanda to cover utilities or credit cards. They called me selfish. They called me cruel, but eventually the anger turned to silence, because they knew deep down I was right. They had used me for years, drained my future for the sake of Melissa's fantasies, and I had finally cut the cord. Meanwhile, I started living truly. I gotta keep my paycheck for myself. I began saving again, little by little. I signed up for a cooking class, something I had dreamed of but never afforded, because Melissa's bills always came first. I even started dating. Again, not rushing, not desperate, just living life at my pace, without guilt, without chains. One night, as I sat in my apartment cooking pasta with fresh ingredients, sipping a glass of wine, I caught my reflection in the window and I smiled. I realized the slap in that boutique wasn't the worst day of my life. It was the best. It broke something inside me, yes, but it also woke me up. It forced me to see my own worth. It taught me the hardest but truest lesson, that family isn't defined by blood family is defined by respect. And if they can't respect you, they don't deserve your sacrifices. Melissa lost her fiancé, her wedding, her reputation. My parents lost their free ride, but me, I gained something priceless. My freedom, my dignity, my peace. And when people ask if I regret it, if I wish I had just stayed quiet to keep the family happy, my answer is always the same: silence isn't peace. Silence is control, and I'll never be controlled again. So if you want to know what happened to Melissa, she's still bitter, still blaming everyone but herself, still living in the ruins of the fairy tale she thought was hers. But if you want to know what happened to me, I'm thriving, I'm stronger, I'm finally alive. And in the end, sometimes the sweetest revenge isn't destruction, it's walking away and letting them choke on the weight of their own choices.